So thank you so much for having us. We're here at Snouts and Stouts right outside of Washington, D.C. And my name is Amy Hillis. I am the chair of the board of the Professional Animal Care Certification Council. And I'm here with Sandy Engel, fellow board member, and talking about the state of pet care in the Washington, D.C. area, as well as what to look for in a pet care provider as a pet parent. So we know from the pet parent perspective, it can be kind of tricky just to know what to look for and what questions to ask when you are searching for a pet care provider. So we're going to be unpacking all of that, as well as talking about what the regulations and what it's like here in the DC area. So Cindy's going to get us started with the rules and regulations and a little bit about what to look for in a provider.
All right, thank you, Miss Amy. So, some things as Amy mentioned we're going to go over are going to be a little bit of an overview of PACC, the Professional Animal Care Certification Council, our mission and our values, and then I will review the state of the pet care industry in our area. PACC is the only independent testing group for the pet care industry. So this includes boarding, daycare, pet sitters, groomers, etc. It's an important step in a super rapidly growing, easy to enter industry that is often damaged by new and deaths at various facilities. We've all heard one or the other. Professionals that become PACC certified, there's 3 different levels of certification, and it reflects a very large, broad base of knowledge in animal care, and includes the requirement of being in the industry for a certain amount of time, and is a 3-year certification. PACC's core values include humane pet care, animal welfare, and our code of ethics. Humane pet care is all-encompassing, but compassionate care for all animals, regardless of species, attentive to security, safety, and well-being, upholding of the do-no-harm value, and ensuring that every animal returns home to their pet parent safely after a stay in their care. Animal welfare encompasses putting the animal's welfare before animals before money. Our code of ethics requires all certified individuals to abide by our humane pet care statement that can be found on the PACC website. They must act with honesty, fairness, and integrity, and provide services without discrimination to any animals or people. And the state of the pet care industry in Virginia and the tri-state area, unfortunately, there is not a pet care establishment. You need a business license. There is a law in the Code of Virginia that means that pet care providers must provide a very, very basic level of care that includes adequate food, water, shelter, exercise, and care. There are no specifics to that law. It is very often not enforced. The only stipulation to the provision of care is that if there is strictly an emergency while a pet is in the care, that establishment must take them for care, only emergency care. And of course, that care is then to be paid for by the owner of the pet. There is some coverage for pet parents when providers fail to meet these established levels of care. But to be honest, there is no oversight of facilities. We are not inspected. I own a facility no regulatory body that comes in and inspects our facility, and anyone can start one at any time as long as we have a business license. So what PACC calls for is additional certified individuals that hold themselves to a higher standard of care for the pets that they take care of. And that being said, we'll talk about what to look for in a pet care facility, including certified individuals.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is that this industry, so a lot of times I'll talk to pet parents and they just assume that everybody in the industry has to have a license or a certification or something like that because that is the case for most other professions. Teachers, doctors, massage therapists, a quality professional is certified. and that's not the case for pet care. And so PAC really exists to raise awareness of that and to bring third-party certification to the pet care industry. So we're going to go through some of the things that you should look for in your provider, and this could be a boarding or daycare facility, it could be a home-based facility, a pet sitter, dog walker, anybody who's going to be caring for your pet. These are some of the things that you can look for. And we have this actually as a download on our website on paccert.org. If you go to the pet parent section, then there is a checklist that you can download, and you can take it with you if you're touring facilities or visiting providers so you know what questions to ask. So it's kind of like if you have human children, not just dog children, but human children. If you're shopping around for a child care center, then there's questions that you think to ask, but sometimes we don't always know what those are for a pet care. So that's what we're here to help you understand. So the first thing that you want to ask about is the physical safety of the place where your pets will be staying. So some of the things that we have here on the screen would be an organized environment. So when you walk into the lobby of the pet care center, or you walk into the space to meet the pet sitter, that's uncluttered, organized. There should be a system to everything, and that's going to be an indicator of how well organized they are as a business in terms of the quality of the care. So it's kind of like if you go to a restaurant and they say you can judge the quality of the restaurant by how clean the bathrooms are. It's kind of like that. So when you walk in, you want to make sure it's very organized and very clean. Ask questions about things like fencing. So best practice is typically a 6-foot-high fence, but some facilities, I have 3 facilities in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and our fences are 8 feet high, and that's just what makes sense for our property. So a minimum of 6-foot fencing is what you want to look for, and then a climate-controlled space. Now, climate-controlled can technically be a pretty broad range of temperature, anything from 50 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's getting a little bit warmer, acceptable range of temperature. So that's a question that you can ask as well, is how are they controlling the climate in the facility? Clean, of course, clean and minimal odors. That's going to let you know that they're taking really good care, making sure that everything stays clean every day. And then controlled on-leash handling. So if you're walking through a facility, you should not see dogs running around loose unless they're in the play group. When they're moving from the accommodation back, then the dogs should be on leash when they're moving. And then proper staffing. So a proper staff-to-dog ratio can depend on the dogs. But best practice for the industry is generally 1 person to every 15 dogs. In North Carolina, where I'm from, our state regulation is actually 1 person to 10 dogs, and that, of course, also depends on the dogs. If they're rough players or if they're small and just kind of laying around. 1 to 15 is considered industry best practice, and then depending on the state, North Carolina, best practice is 1 to 10. All right, so next, when you're talking to a pet care provider, you want to ask what their emergency preparedness plans are. So anything from fire safety to what happens if there's an active shooter in the area to emergency weather. Those are things that the pet care provider should have a plan for. What happens if their power goes out or there's no access to water. So all of those things, there should be a plan in place for all of that. And so don't be afraid to ask for that when you're looking at a pet care provider. And then overnight staffing or overnight monitoring. There should be some type of monitoring in place 24/7. You don't necessarily have to have a person on site overnight, even if there are dogs spending the night. So it is acceptable to have a monitoring system where we're monitoring fire, electricity, emergency, then that police and fire can be dispatched immediately, and then the owner can be notified to come on site. So there should be some type of monitoring system in place. Knowledgeable professionals. So this is something else that you want to ask about. So I know for me, when I was looking for child daycare for my son, one of the questions that we asked was, what are the credentials for the teachers? They have to have a college degree. what does that look like? And it's the same thing for pet care providers. So there should be a very established training coordinating protocol in place that includes staff training. So this training should include things like learning about body language, breed knowledge, behavior management, playgroup management, basic CPR, first aid, things like that. So those are the things that the staff should be learning about once they get onboarded to start their job. And then beyond that, what type of continuing education are they getting? So there's lots of different programs out there. So some of the things that we do at our facility, for example, is go through pet CPR and first aid training. We give them access to webinars, to fear-free certification, and then of course, PACCC certification. PACCC is really the highest level for a non-medical pet care provider. It's an independent third-party certification, and it's good for 3 years. And during that 3 years, you need to get continuing education in order to get recertified at the end of that 3 years. So there should be continuing education and training happening on a regular for the staff at that facility. And then also one of the things that we want to make sure people know about too is that the staff can understand when an animal is not feeling well, if there's an illness coming on, or just some type of distress that's happening. So one of the things that can happen in a boarding environment, for example, is bloat. And I don't know, has this happened at your facility before?
Absolutely, yes. Luckily, staff is trained to, the symptoms can be very ambiguous, right? And indicative of a lot of different things. So as long as your staff knows what to look for training ahead of time, then they can react and have a plan in place of what happens with those pets.
Exactly. So bloat is one of those things in particular that you need to have a knowledgeable, trained professional to know what to look for, because it's only a matter of hours that you have before it gets, before it can turn into a really serious situation. So having your staff trained to know what to look for, how to know when a dog is not feeling well, and then also when it's time to seek veterinary care. Those are things that you should ask for when you're looking for a pet care. Aside from the physical safety, we also want to look at the emotional well-being of the animals as well. So when animals are in a group, or even if they're just one-on-one, you still want to make sure that each dog as an individual is doing better in that care than it was before they arrived. So the emotional well-being should be highly prioritized. And that means having positive reinforcement as the go-to for training and handling methods. So one of the terms in the NEMA, least invasive, minimally aversive, and that just means that we're relying on positive methods and we're really kind of interfering with the dog as little as possible to get it to behave. So relying on things like commands, praise, treats, some of those positive methods. If you are looking at a dog play group and you're seeing the play group being managed through aversive methods, such as spraying the dogs with a water bottle, that is not acceptable. Really, to know what to expect and to know how to group dogs, then those things will not be necessary. Now, it's not to say that something can't happen. They're dogs, they're living things, and everybody can do their best to prevent a situation from happening, like a little scuffle or a little fight. But if you can read the body language properly and prioritize that emotional well-being, make sure that the dogs are happy and safe and not anxious in your care, then you're going to eliminate a lot of those problems before they even get started. So it should really be those that we're using to handle the dogs. And then offering a wide variety of activities for differing levels and ages. So that's one of the reasons why we train our staff on how to understand what different breeds are, what they like to do. So a herding breed is going to be different from a toy breed, for example. So if you have a small dog or a dog that's a toy breed, they may just want to sit on the lap of their people and just do that all day, and that's fine. But then if you have something like an Australian Shepherd, then they may want to do herding work or things like that. So you want to understand what the dog likes and prioritize that and include that into the day to make sure they're emotionally feeling good throughout the day. Something else, so keeping client contact information updated. This is kind of a no-brainer, and it's super easy to do, of course, with technology today, but there should be some type of system in place for the pet care provider that you're using where they have your information, your contact information, and then also emergency contact information as well. So for pet boarding, if you're traveling or you're going to be out of the country, or if you're going to be in an area where you don't have great cell phone reception or you don't have access to your email very easily, then there should be an emergency contact that's noted, and your pet care provider should ask for that. And then as the pet parent, of course, ideally you will let that emergency contact know that they are in fact your emergency contact, so they can just be aware when you're out of town that the facility may be getting a hold of you if there is an issue. So by the pet care provider. Going along with animal wellness and documentation, so current vaccination records and having a vaccination protocol. Dogs are living things, and so it's not a matter of if they're going to get sick, it's truly a matter of when. So it's just like sending your kids to school, or if you go to work in your office, you may be vaccinated or you may be doing everything that you can to be healthy, but it's still possible to get sick. And that's not necessarily the facility that you're taking your dog to. Things are going to happen where no matter how clean it is and no matter how strict the vaccination protocols are, there's still a possibility for the animal to catch a cold, essentially. However, even though there is a risk, it should still be documented, and vaccinations should still be in that software provider, in that system, to make sure that everybody is up to date and that we're doing everything that we can to keep the dogs healthy in our care. If there is an outbreak that does happen, then the facility needs to communicate with you as the pet parent and let you know that there is an outbreak of something going on. So it gets a little tricky. We always talk about canine cough in this industry, and I know in the fall there was,
Canine influenza virus.
Yeah, there was a canine influenza virus going around. In the fall, there was some type of upper respiratory virus going on. That's just the nature of living, for dogs to get sick, even though they are vaccinated against Bordetella or vaccinated against parainfluenza or CIV.
Just like a human.
Exactly, just like a human. But, if there is an outbreak, that pet care provider should let you know. That way you can make the decision if you want to keep socializing your dog or if you want to take a break for a while. The symptoms of canine cough are very similar to the symptoms of common allergies, and oftentimes veterinarians won't go through the full, determine exactly what is the root of the upper respiratory infection. And that makes sense because most likely you're going to treat it the same way with the same type of antibiotics.
And it's expensive.
And it's very expensive, yeah. So just know that that's the risk, but there should still be a process in place for if an animal gets sick, notifying the pet parents and making sure that vaccinations are current and documented in the system. Next, we have animal assessments. So if you're taking your dog to them, there should be a very clear, documented assessment process, and that process should take most of the day. So sometimes I'll hear of places saying, drop them off, and in 10 minutes we'll do the assessment real quick, see how they feel, and then you can be on your way. And a true proper assessment can take several hours because we want to make sure we're assessing the dog in a variety of situations at the facility. So this can be coming in on leash in the lobby, it can be going into its enclosure, or we're assessing how the dog does in a play group, how it does being handled by men, women, just different scenarios like that. So oftentimes an assessment can take some time, but that's okay. It's just like with people, sometimes it takes us time to warm up in a new environment too, and not all dogs want to be social, and that's perfectly fine. We want to make sure that when we're looking for a pet care provider, that there are different options for our pet based on what it likes to do best. Whether that's solo play or group play, that assessment process, all of that into consideration to make sure that we're doing what the dog likes best. That way, physical safety and emotional safety, we're kind of covering all of our bases there. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach for pet care. So again, dogs like different things, and they can have an off day, or if they're not feeling good, they may act a little bit differently than normal. So we just want to make sure we have a thorough assessment process. So that's something else as a pet parent that you should be asking for and looking for when you're searching for a pet care provider. Next we have so there's a lot of different things that we want to monitor when we're taking care of our pets. So feeding, elimination patterns, if there's medication involved, are they taking their medication? Anything that's out of the ordinary should be documented, and so your pet care provider should have a way to document all of this. And again, super easy to do that nowadays with technology. Most of us have some type of software program or something that we use where we can document in each dog's client file exactly what they're doing, how much they're eating, patient, and all of that type of thing. So ask your pet care provider if you're touring how they document what the animal is doing all day. Again, kind of like if you have small children, I know I keep using this analogy, but it fits. When our son was in daycare, we got a little report card at the end of the day of all of the different things that he did. And so you may not get a report card, and that's okay, but somebody should be able to tell you what the dog was doing all day when they were there. Knowing when to seek veterinarian care. So again, the staff should be trained to know what they can handle and then what is outside their scope of expertise and when they should seek vet care. So make sure you ask about all of that too when you're looking for a pet care provider. And then openly communicating behavior and observations. So your pet care provider should not just pretend like the dog had a great day and had so much fun, even when it didn't. You know, a good relationship is where the pet care provider is telling you as the pet parent what your dog likes, and the pet is really the center of that relationship. So going back to what Sammy said earlier about our code of ethics and making sure that we're putting the well-being of the animal first above all other business considerations, including profit, that's what that comes back to with the care of that animal. There's every so often where a dog just doesn't fit for us. Maybe a facility, for example, is not the best place for the pet to receive care, and that's okay. So we want to make sure providers being honest with you about what your dog likes, what it doesn't like, and what the best environment is for it. Next, we have compassionate caregivers. So again, this just comes back to that pet care provider understanding your dog's needs, what they like to do, what they don't like, and they want to really partner with you. So if you come into your pet care facility and you feel like you are a burden, like you're interrupting their business by being there, or you're getting in the way, bad for you. You know, of course, everybody's busy when they're at work, but the customer is the reason why we are in business, and so they should be actively seeking to partner with you. And then it's also a really good sign too when your pet care provider is active in the local community. So we're here at Snouts and Stouts right now, for example. They do lots of different community events, and they are really have a mission to make sure that people are educated on quality pet care and what people should be looking for in a quality pet care program. Always a great sign when you see that your pet care business is actively working to get involved with the community and make an impact on a broader scale. That's so important. That's a great thing when we see that happening. The last thing we want to talk about is certification and credentials. So again, we're at Snouts and Stouts. Daniel at Snouts and Stouts is PACCC certified, and I believe he's one of the only ones in the area who is certified. And so you can go on the PACCC website and you can see in your area, provider, manager, or operator, the level of certification isn't quite as important as just being certified, because that shows a commitment to pet care and to the industry, and a certified provider is truly doing everything that they can to make sure that the pets and the pet parents in the community is getting the absolute best out of them. So look for PACCC certification. Fear-free certification is another great one, but there should be certifications and credentials. So when you come in see some of these certificates on the wall where they've taken pet CPR and first aid, or they are PACCC certified, or they've taken continuing education through some other great providers. But those are some of the things that you should be looking for, because if you're leaving your pets in somebody's hands, they of course need to know what to do. And even though everybody does their best to make sure everything goes right all of the time, things can still happen. We're dealing with living things here with animals. So it's not just about keeping them safe, but also know if something does go wrong. And so that's where that credential and certification comes in. Pet CPR and first aid trained staff, again, that's another great one. We have a lot of our staff certified at Social Pet, where I work my business, and we've saved the lives of several dogs just by having that knowledge. And then also being members in different professional associations. So again, something else to look for on your pet care provider's website or in the lobby if it's a facility-based care. Be looking for some of the different professional organizations. They could be pet care related, or they could be community related, like a chamber of commerce or something like that too. But you should not see your pet care provider operating on their own little island. You know, we always want to be part of the community and giving back to the community. So those are the things that you should be looking for in a pet care provider. My remote's like, it's like I'm done now. Well, the last slide is really just our contact info, the most important ones. But you can find this information on our website at paccert.org, PACCERT.org. And this is where you can find the checklist for the things that we just talked about. And our email address is info@paccert.org, info@paccert.org.
So we have an info session coming up too.
We do. We also have an info session coming up too, so you can follow us on Facebook and just see what we have going on. But you know, these are really the key points and the key takeaways. And so we hope you enjoy this, and check out our website again, paccert.org, and we hope to hear from you.
Thank you, Snouts and Stouts, for having us.
Yes, thank you.